I am aware of the fact that we understand to some extent the meaning of the book of Job. And if you are a very diligent scholar of the Bible, you will know that that is the first book of the Bible. That's the first book that was written in terms of chronology. And the book of Job was written where the revelations of God were in its cradle. The way God does it is that it begins with a little stream. And then subsequent people that receive the baton to bear witness of God now increase the streams. And then in the book of Revelation, the curtain is removed so that we can see the context and the concept of kingdom administration and the things that God puts in place in order to accomplish his plan that he has ordained before the foundation of the world. And just in case you understood the book of Revelation, the meaning is that nothing changed anything. If you serve God or not, it will not change anything. If you decide to fulfill your call or not, it will not change anything. Nothing changed anything. So God will still fulfill his end. He will still achieve his intention, whether I serve him or I serve him not. So to serve him is a privilege, to be part of something that is so ancient, more ancient than the foundations of the world. So the revelations of God were in his cradle. And the people that gave direction to humanity at the time were the cardinals, the custodians of philosophy. And at every time on the face of the earth, in those days, there were 4 cardinals, 4 custodians of philosophy. And it happens to be that Job was the custodian of the East. So when things happen, human beings want to understand why they happen. So they will get one of the cardinals. So he comes and he brings his philosophy and explains the reason why this thing has taken place. And if you want to avoid this kind of thing, we should stop doing this kind of thing. So it was through the wisdom that manifested through those cardinals that culture, society, sociology was built around. There were significant entities in their realm. So that was how life was in those days until one of the cardinals became afflicted. The one that is supposed to explain became afflicted. So the others were summoned from their places to diagnose his condition. I don't want to take you on a theological journey, but I have enough time to say at least that the philosophical position of Job was self-righteousness. And Job's argument was that there was nothing that he had done that qualified him for the kind of suffering he was going through. Notice that the revelations of God were in his cradle. So the reason why God will allow someone that is devoted to him to suffer, to pass through some suffering, was not yet fully known. Those were the days where the doctrine was according to karma. Are you still here? I don't have time to do the job. To show you, one of the cardinals, his philosophy was based on personal merit, that anything that happens to you, there was a cause that generated this effect. I would have shown you the philosophical position of each of these individuals. And Job held the position of self-righteousness. In the New Testament, we now understand that suffering is not a sign that you are broken covenant with God. It can actually be a sign that you are in sync with God. Because, are you there? Because Jesus authored our salvation through suffering, and there's a measure of it that every one of us will bear in administering his purposes upon the face of the earth. So, but this knowledge was not there then. So they were trying to understand what it was that was responsible for Job's condition. So this wisdom was so deep that even the cardinals did not have sufficient depth to decipher what was at work. So they were forced to allow God to come bring perspective. And we see God bringing perspective in Job chapter 38, just in case you have a Bible. Then the Lord answered Job out of the whirlwind and said, who is this that darkeneth counsel by words without knowledge? What does it mean for counsel to be darkened by words without knowledge? It means just in case you had an encounter with God, you had some business with God, and there were some things that were impressed upon your spirit that you are convinced about that this is the present revelation position of the Spirit. If you meet Job, and Job begins to speak words that darken counsel, even the counsel you receive from your own intercourse with God, you will begin to doubt it because he's speaking words that are not rooted in spiritual knowledge. Can you see the trouble that can result when someone sets up a church and he doesn't have spiritual knowledge? He will darken counsel. Who is this that darkens counsel by words without knowledge? So God, when he came to bring his perspective, his first comment was a rebuke. He felt irritated when he heard the cardinals speak. And those were the scholars of the time. There was no spiritual knowledge in what they were saying. So he now said, all right, so you guys, Job, you say you are righteous. Okay. He said, give up now thy loins like a man, for I will demand of thee an answer thou me. You know, the Bible says counsel in the heart of a man is like deep waters. A man of understanding draweth it out. So God wanted to test the depth of Job. Now that you say that you are self-righteous and you can confront me in the court of justice, judgment, and equity, you want my own testimony because you believe that you are right in your ways. Say, all right, get up your lungs, get ready. I'm going to test your depth by asking you some questions. Because counsel in the heart of the man is like what? Like deep waters, and a man of understanding draws it out. How does he draw it out? With questions. So I want to draw your depth. I want to test your depth. First question. He said, where was thou when I laid the foundations of the earth? Declare if you have understanding. Because some of the things that you are experiencing now were built into the foundation of the earth. So if you were not there, you will not see the cables that are running from that point. You are limited. You don't even stand a chance to question me in court if I decide to condescend to the level of getting to hear your view. You are not ancient enough. So in the journey and in the battle of the Spirit, the more ancient you are, more victories you will have. Because Satan is a created being. That angel called Lucifer. Okay, you are not with me. I've gone too far for you. Satan was created. There were things that were set in motion before Satan came up. And that's why the Bible is full of the miscalculations of the devil. Because he doesn't have understanding of things that were fasting into the foundations of things. So when God speaks, he doesn't speak plainly. He concocts a parable before he speaks. Such a parable that only him can unveil. Because he doesn't want deep things to be available at face value. Part of the reason is because he needs to keep with the spirit and with the policy of secrecy that undergirds spiritual things. It's not of him that will it. It's not of him that wrong it. It's of God that shows mercy. Whenever Jesus walked around, he sees someone afflicted, he breaks the chain, comes to the synagogue, he will expect that the place will be pious and sanctimonious. And that's how it was. Until Jesus shows up. When he shows up, a seemingly conservative man in the synagogue begins to manifest. And there was nothing previously in the man's conduct that suggested that there was a demon on his life. And the people now registered their observation. What a world is this? You know, it's a mystery. It's a mystery. What is happening? Because our teachers were the scribes and the Pharisees. This dimension, what a world is this? And when they said what a world is this, I was expecting the title of the message. Because what they meant was, what a message is this? I expected the title. Instead, they said, with authority and with power. He commanded the unclean spirits, and they come out. And such was not the capacity that was given to the Pharisees, that were the teachers and the exhorters in the synagogue. He brought a dimension that could not be understood by the mind of man. Who is this that darkens counsel by words without knowledge? See, where were you when I laid the foundations of the earth? Speak if you have understanding. Who had laid the measures thereof, if thou knowest? And who had stretched forth the line upon it? If you did masters in mathematics, there is a course called circle geometry. He's talking about circle geometry. People like Christocentric of the Greeks are the ones that came up with all those strange formulas. And Christocentric was the first man that calculated the diameter of the earth, and he didn't travel to outer space. When Apollo 11 got to the moon and they took a picture of the earth from that point, they discovered that the calculations of Christocentric were accurate. Who wrote the line thereof? That's the diameter. Were you there when the diameter was calculated? So if you are not that ancient, what makes you think you can understand everything? You are standing on things that are bigger than you. That is, this earth, it is standing without pillars. That is to tell you, it's from the New Testament that we now understand the 5 mysteries of the Bible. Things that you cannot understand except the Creator himself comes to upgrade you through some form of capacity building. You are not that wise. Please help me tell your neighbor, you are not that wise. You are not. He's in custody of mysteries, and that's why if you want to work with him, don't try to be cerebral with him the way Job was. No, you can't cope. You know too little, and your knowledge doesn't fit into the stature of the context. It doesn't make sense. Because you cannot see from far enough. Your vision is microscopic, but his own vision is telescopic. He said, whereupon are the foundations thereof fasting, and who laid the cornerstone thereof? I hope you know Job is no longer talking. So is there anybody in this auditorium? My hands need to be up to, that has ever asked God why before. Why? You don't have what it takes to ask why. Because the context from whence you draw your perception is such a limited context. It's a context that is rigged by time, by space, and it is a lie. That's why we walk by faith and not by sight. But the Bible says that the things that are seen, they are temporal. And the things that are not seen, they are eternal.